Hello and welcome to wjlive, powered by the Western Journal. My name is Grant Atkinson. I'm an associate reporter here at the Western Journal. I'm joined by Abby Liebing, another one of our associate reporters. So we just doing an all-reporter show today, I guess.
Exactly. I mean, it's where the real wisdom is. It's in the reporting.
Exactly. So we're going to be talking today about Joe Biden and some of the recent gaffes that he has made just today. Actually, it seems that every single day there's a new gaffe that we can talk about, and so we're going to talk about the one that's been making headlines today. So Abby, you want to give us a little intro on what he did exactly?
The great thing with this gaffe is that this is a gaffe that could start World War III.
Love that.
So I'm not really sure if you can call it a gaffe after that. It's kind of like maybe that's a bit more,
some sort of a bigger word than a gaffe.
I don't know what to call it, but. So Biden said today that he is ready for the U.S. to militarily defend Taiwan should China try to take over Taiwan, which China is always trying to do and has been trying to do since the 70s. No, earlier than that, since the 50s. And that, of course, threw everyone into a tizzy because the U.S. has always kept a very ambiguous strategy between Taiwan and China, where we kind of play both sides. We're trade partners with China. We don't really want to anger them, but we also give tons and tons of military equipment to Taiwan. Beijing wants to take over Taiwan because they don't like them being an independent island out there hanging off their coast. And so Biden very boldly said, he's like, we're ready to fight with the Taiwanese. Like, we're ready to a military response. It's not just like, oh, we'd aid them, thoughts and prayers, wishes. And I'm going to change my, Facebook profile picture. It was like, no, we're ready to respond with the military in Taiwan. And of course, everyone flipped out. They're like, oh, great. Now China's going to attack the U.S. and Taiwan. And now we're going to get in World War III. And it's going to be really bad because we already have World War III going on in Ukraine. And so the White House, his staffers then kind of walked back his statements and were like, he's not having the best day. He didn't really mean that. We're just, thoughts and prayers with Taiwan. And so it's just a mess. And everyone's freaking out because they're like, does Biden want to go to war or not? And the White House is like, no, he doesn't. And the rest of America's like, yes, he does. So it's a real mess. But it brings into question kind of all of the U.S.'s foreign policy right now, and where we stand with China, what we're doing with Ukraine, what our military is doing. Are we going to intervene in yet another war? It's great. So what are your thoughts on this, Grant?
Well, I think we've just seen time and time again that Joe Biden has no idea how to handle foreign policy. I think it's weird to me because we've seen the Biden administration kind of be hesitant in the past, and Democrats as a whole kind of be hesitant to swear off China, like you said, because obviously we rely on them for a lot. I think Republicans usually are more harsh on China. Donald Trump was very critical of China.
Oh, very, very. Yeah.
And Biden hasn't really done that. So I just thought it was kind of, I don't know, like a switch for him to say that not only are we going to support Taiwan, but we're going to send our military in there in order to fight China. It just seems like a far cry from what he has been saying.
Right. And, actually, people have been taking issue with what exactly he has been saying over Taiwan, because this is actually the third time that he said something pretty inflammatory about defending Taiwan, but then the White House, on official record, is like, no, he didn't mean that. Ben Shapiro actually had a great tweet on this that he tweeted earlier this morning after Biden made his outrageous comments. He said, to be clear, the problem isn't that Joe Biden says that the U.S. will intervene militarily if Taiwan is invaded. The problem is that it's totally unclear if that's true or if we even have the capacity to do so. And it's even more unclear when it's his own White House that keeps shushing him. So this is the third time that Biden's been ready to lock and load, be like, yeah, we're taking Taiwan under us. And the White House is like, you can't say that. You're the president, but you can't say that. And it just, it begs the question. It's like, does Biden even have control in the White House? Does anyone listen to him? What is he doing?
Yeah, it's pretty clear that he's not calling the shots. I think anytime that you see a president say something and then his own administration have to walk back what he said and say, oh, he didn't mean that, Or, I mean, we've seen the transcripts. They have to go in there and change the transcripts because he said something that's just totally incorrect or false. So I think it's pretty clear to everyone, but each time this happens, it's even more clear that Biden isn't calling the shots in his administration. I don't know who is really. I don't know if it's a team effort or what it is, but it's clear that it's not him who is truly in charge, at least to the point where anything he says goes. That's not the case, obviously.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of the ultimate puppeteering inside of the White House. Back in the Obama days, there was all the theories of, Obama is just the puppet of, the deep, dark state and all of that. And now I'm like, I feel like that's actually Biden, except they're not really hiding the strings. It's like, they're just like, no, he didn't mean that. Strike that from the record. That was a joke. And it makes the U.S. look so bad. Of just like, yeah, our president said that. Don't listen to him. Never listen to Biden. Bad idea to listen to him.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting that we've gotten here because I feel like at first, when Biden, he wasn't doing press conferences, he wasn't taking questions, and they were trying to keep him from saying anything that would get him in trouble, that would make us look bad. Now it's like they've given up on that strategy and they know he's just going to go out there and like say things that aren't true. So now their new plan is just to walk them back and just say like, "Oh, that's just Biden. Don't believe what he says. He's just crazy, He just says whatever." Like, they're not
You
even.
never know.
I don't know. I feel like it's just their new strategy to try to discredit what he says because the things that he says are so false and they're so inflammatory at times, like you said, and so just ill-advised that they basically just have to kind of pretend like what he says doesn't matter, even though he's the president, because that's their only choice, I guess, at this point.
Right. I mean, as ever and always, I feel like Biden is kind of that crazy uncle in the corner at holiday gatherings who's had, a few too many drinks. And he just starts saying things. It's just kind of like, that inflammatory guy who's like, "Oh, let's fight. You want to fight me? You want to throw hands?" It's just like, and everyone's like, no. He doesn't really mean that. It's okay. Shh, sit down. But it's just such a horrible, horrible look for the U.S. But an even worse look for the U.S. would be actually starting a war with China.
Yeah.
I feel like that would, that everyone thinks Ukraine is bad. Starting a war with China. Where do you even see that going, Grant? Would it happen?
I don't see it going well for the U.S. I mean, the U.S. could conceivably win a war against China, but I think it would be a hard-fought war, and there would be a lot of lives that would be lost on both sides. So it's certainly not something that I think is worth it. I support Taiwan if they, want to be free from China. That's great, but at some point you have to make decisions of, how many American lives are we going to sacrifice for that cause? And I think that number is, in my head, not very high, and certainly not to the height that it would be should we get in a war with China. It's not a good trade-off for the United States.
Right. It's one of those things where it's like, oof, that's some pretty high stakes to be playing with. And there is the understandable argument of, Taiwan is in the chain of islands that are generally very Western friendly. So, Okinawa, it's close to Japan and Korea and the Philippines, which are all much more Western oriented. And, China doesn't love having that right on their doorstep. So, that's understandable on both sides of the argument of the U.S. wanting to protect that and China being like, no, get away. But I don't think it would give any grounds good enough to then just be like, all right, we're going to militarily intervene. Here we come, Afghanistan Part 2, just in Taiwan. We're going to make it, South Pacific now. It's like a reboot.
And that's the other thing is that I don't even trust our military as a whole right now. I think there are great people in the military, and I think everyone who serves the country is great, and we appreciate their sacrifice. But I think the leadership in the military is so warped. They're so worried about these woke ideologies that they're trying to force on the members. And I know people in the military who have told me, like the people who are there and who are serving don't want to be fed this, but it's the leaders who are saying, "Oh, you need to do this. You need to be diversity trained. You need to do whatever the left tells you, basically." And they're so focused on that I don't even think we're in any position to fight a major war. I think our military is pretty weak right now because of the leadership.
Yeah, and I mean, the leadership, it's awful to see the deterioration of the military because it's all the paper pushers just kind of, trickling down bad ideas down the line. And I don't see this going well. I mean, we've already started to see a deterioration in our military officials and the entire military. And I'm like, good Lord, 2 more years of Biden. Is it just going to get worse? All these kids who would normally join the military just don't want to do it anymore because they don't want to, jump through the hoops and they don't want to go through all the woke liberal crap.
Or kids even who went to military school or something. I'm talking about a specific friend of mine. So
Yeah.
He went to a military school and he thought that the military was going to be his career. He was so excited about it, and now he's got this 3-year deal, that he has to do because he went to school, and so you have a 3-year contract. And he's like, as soon as I'm done with that, he's about 2 years in, and he's like, as soon as I'm done with that, it's over, and I'm getting out of the military. And it's sad because I remember him being so excited to serve the country, and that's what he wanted to do. And he's very smart. He's very good at it. He knows so much about history and all those sorts of things, but he just can't take it because of how woke it is. And now you're driving people away who would be great for our military, and you're driving them away because they don't want to deal with this.
Exactly. And it's, the typical progression of military is, you work your way up through the ranks. And so, your friend, I have friends in the same exact boat who it's like, in a better situation, they would be the ones getting promoted over the years and ending up in leadership, and that'd be great in their leadership roles. But then they're like, nah, never mind. So it's just going to leave the bad leaders in place who are just degrading everything. And it's just so sad.
So then you're just filtering out all the good soldiers, and the only ones that you have left are the leftist ones who agree with the leadership and what they're pushing, which is just the worst thing that could possibly happen for the military.
It's just the worst. And I want to just keep telling everyone, I'm like, you have to remember, you can have all these problems with American society. The economy is falling apart. We don't like our politics. But I'm like, at the end of the day, the military should be kind of the last line of defense, and it's actively being broken down. Mm-hmm. It's like when we lose everything else and our culture is just shot to pieces. Great, now we can even be attacked. And it's just a nightmare. And I think with all of this stuff going on with Taiwan, I think China completely sees that. And they're like, this is a great opportunity. Here we go. We'll take Taiwan. Bring it on.
Yeah, and when these woke ideas first started being pushed in the Biden administration and started being distributed in the military, we were certainly, we have presences in a lot of places, but it wasn't an immediate threat. And now we've had 3 situations in Afghanistan, Ukraine, and now in Taiwan that, I'm not saying that we're at war or anything like that, but they're very immediate situations that could at some point require a military intervention. And that just makes this woke ideology that's been forced on the military so much more immediate, because you're like, okay, like it was bad when they were teaching it, but now that it's like we actually might have to fight a war,
right?
Now it's like that much worse, because
you're like, this is so much worse.
It's so immediate, and you just feel the potential effects that could be really bad for the country.
It could be terrible. And I think it's also, as things deteriorate, I also feel like it's just a mockery of the American citizenry, of the military, politicians, the institutions. They really treat the American population like we're stupid. Mm-hmm. And that, we're gonna do what we want and enforce different policies and ideas and all sorts of stuff that you don't agree with because we know and you don't and you're stupid. And it's that type of thinking that is just going to ruin everything, with the intervention with Ukraine, the possibility of trouble with Taiwan. It's very much like the elites in DC are all like, well, we will make the decision. We don't care what anyone else says because you guys are stupid. The American population is dumb. You guys are the ones who elected Trump. You're dumb. And so we will do what we want. It's toxic.
Unfortunately, it's not just Democrats either. There are Republicans such as Mitch McConnell.
Mitch.
Are complete paper bags. They just fold at at the first sign of trouble or anything that could, hurt them politically or hurt their elite status in DC. And so that's why we see people like Mitch McConnell, wanting to send $40 billion to Ukraine. And I have no doubt that if something like this happened, if we didn't get involved militarily in Taiwan, what we would do is send them a bunch more money, because that's what we're already doing in Ukraine, and they're not even our ally.
Exactly.
So we're just going to be sending more and more money, and it's going to hurt Americans either way, whether we send troops in there or whether we send them money that we don't have. I mean, it's going to be negative, a net negative for the country.
No, it's going to be absolutely net negative. I think best case scenario that happens is that we just do Ukraine all over again with Taiwan, which means, the Congress just passed, $40 billion for Ukraine, $40 billion that we don't have, going to Ukraine. So that's going to make the inflation crisis that much worse. Then it's like, here comes Taiwan, another $40 billion for them. It's like that Oprah meme where it's just like handing
it out to everyone.
It's just handing out $40 billion for you, $40 billion for you. Meanwhile, the American population, we don't care that gas is $6 a gallon. Suck it up. We're helping Ukraine and Taiwanese. It's fine. You're fine. And I'm like, well, that's not fine. After a while, the American people won't be fine because it will wreck the country. We will fall apart.
I don't know what's so difficult to understand for politicians and for anyone really who's criticizing those who have questioned the amount of aid that we're giving to Ukraine, or I'm sure would question the amount of aid that we would give to Taiwan, and if that situation were to arise. I don't understand why you can't have a nuanced view that, yes, the people in Ukraine, the citizens, not the leadership, because there's plenty of problems in Ukraine with the leadership. But
yeah, there's lots of problems.
The citizens who are innocent deserve to be protected. They don't deserve to be killed by Russia, and we don't want that, and we would like to help them as much as we can.
Yeah.
But at the same time, our citizens deserve to be protected, and our citizens have to come before their citizens. We have to take care of our citizens first, and then their citizens. I don't know, people act like that sounds harsh or that's really mean. That's just basic logic.
It's just basic logic.
I don't understand why that's so controversial.
It's a nightmare. And I think it's actually, not to tie specifically into race, but it happens to come up with critical race theory, the whole idea of white guilt. Mm-hmm. I feel like there's American guilt of we're the rich first world Western nation, the world dominant power. And so the leadership and our politicians often treat us like, you're fine. You have first world problems. We're going to go help the people who have third world problems. And because they're third world, you can't complain with your first world problems. Right. And it's a really messed up mentality. I'm like, that's not how it works.
I think that's a leftist ideology in itself too, which is that whoever is, the most marginalized, or whoever has the most characteristics that make life difficult for them, those people are the ones who get to complain and that we have to help. And if you're not one of those people, you don't get to complain about anything.
Yeah,
and,
you're fine.
And everything is just compared to those. There's always, someone who's worse than you. So stop complaining because you don't have it that bad. These people have it the worst. And it's like,
exactly.
We can all have issues that are different, and some are bigger than others, but we don't have to choose who is allowed to have an issue and who's not.
Right, exactly. It's like, in light of the whole baby formula shortage too, it's like everyone's like, shut up, American moms. We don't care that you don't have baby formula. At least you're not starving to death like, everyone else in the world. And it's like, you can't, technically, yeah, sure, your problems could get worse.
Yeah.
You could be dying of malaria in Africa. That would stink. But that doesn't mean that, I always say, first world problems are still problems.
Yeah,
they're
exactly.
still problems. Just the whole trying to play the whole degree game doesn't work. It leads to policies like this, where we're sending money to tons of people while moms can't feed their babies because there's no baby formula and we don't have enough money to drive to the gas station anymore.
Exactly.
And it's just a nightmare. Our world's falling apart, guys. This is doom and gloom Monday.
World is falling apart. You heard it here first. In
case you weren't sure.
any sort of a happier note we could wrap up on before we go here. I'm trying to think what's something positive that we could end on, do you think?
What's something positive? In my personal opinion, nothing will happen with Taiwan.
Okay.
That is my
Okay.
positive opinion for the day. I think this is all just, extreme talking. Everyone's freaking out again. Everyone's freaking out because of Ukraine, because no one wants Ukraine to happen again and again and again. But, that's the world, guys. Wars happen, people die, people have issues, economies fall apart, ours is falling apart, but I don't think that there's going to be a war in Taiwan.
Okay. Well, that's great.
In
I like that prediction.
In my professional opinion, don't take my word for it. If I'm wrong, you can come after me.
Yeah, we'll get some comments, I'm sure.
Oh,
Once
I'm
there's
sure
a
we'll get
war,
some
they'll
comments.
be talking.
We'll be like, hey, remember when that idiot said that? And I was like, well, sorry, I didn't bring my crystal ball today. So,
But I think, that's a good chance that you would be correct. And that's hopefully what we all want and what we want to see happen is that there won't be any sort of large-scale war in Taiwan. I'm hoping that this is just another example of Biden being out of touch, not knowing what he's doing. It's unfortunate that we have to say that is the best-case scenario.
that is very unfortunate.
The best-case scenario is that our president is so stupid that he just says things that aren't true, but it's not that
just
big a
makes up
deal.
things.
It's just not that big a deal. I mean, it should be a big deal that he doesn't know how to speak, but
Exactly. It's concerning.
but
I feel like that should be much more concerning than it is. I don't like that the American population is just like, oh, it's just Biden. What you gonna do? Can't
Yeah.
speak.
yeah, sadly we've had to kind of make that our reality, but hopefully this will just be another example of that. It won't be any sort of major large-scale conflict that we're going to get into. That's pretty much all that we have here today on WJ Live. I'm sorry that we couldn't bring you some more positive news, but at least Abby has predicted that we will not get in a war with Taiwan. A Taiwan-China war, that we won't get involved in that. We wouldn't go to war with Taiwan. That would be weird. But
No. We just don't want to get blown up by China.
yes, hopefully we'll not go to war on that side of the country, or of the world, sorry. But what will hopefully happen is that if you enjoyed this episode, you will go to westernjournal.com/join.
That was a smooth
and you will support us. That really helps us out. It helps us be able to bring you shows like this one. It helps us be able to bring you reporting all the stories that you guys want to hear that maybe you're not hearing in the establishment media. They're probably not talking about how dangerous Biden's foreign policy is and how incompetent he has been, because they don't like to talk about that kind of thing. But we like to bring you the news, the true news. So if you'd like to help us keep doing that, we'd love to have you join us, subscribe, and that really helps us out. As far as these episodes, if you want to see every episode of WJ Live, go to YouTube or Rumble, wherever you're watching, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon that will give you a notification when we go live, so that we're not shadow banned by any of the big tech corporations who don't want to have our information put out there again. So just go ahead and hit that bell icon, and that won't be a problem. We thank you again for joining us. We'll be back here on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern. We are here every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at that time. And until then, we hope you guys have a great start to your week.